Hi guys, and welcome to the second season of Thunderstorms called Downpour. This series is written by Stacey, Holt, artwork was provided and approved by Sisaat or Sisaat on Tumblr. I'll leave the link in the description box below, along with everyone that is collaborating within the series, which are Shane, who will be voicing 𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 and Adrian, Stacey Holt, which is me, as Marinette, Sabine, and the narrator, and Ashton will be voicing 𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏. Now, Chapter 10. It's Alright to Cry. They jumped up onto the top of the building and slid into Adrian's bedroom, making sure no one saw them as they entered. Not that it mattered since they were superheroes, doing their job after all, but 𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏's behavior was unstable, and Ladybug knew that. She didn't want him to do anything rash. They said there was a secret basement, Ladybug said.
It has to be in his office somewhere. It's where I found that one book. It's also where he spends all of his time,
𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 said, leading the way. Ladybug followed him and could tell he was nervous, which was understandable. She was also worried. She didn't want to think about what would happen if Gabriel was actually Hawkmoth. Firstly, why? Secondly, who was using the Peacock Miraculous if he was Hawkmoth? Thirdly, if Gabriel is arrested, where would Adrian go? Would Natalie take him, or would she not be considered a caretaker? Too many questions were running through her mind, and all she could think of were the worst possible results. She sped up her walking and took his hand into hers and gave him a fake confident smile, trying to stay positive for him, though she bit back tears. 𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 opened the door and hesitantly walked inside, almost like he was terrified to enter the room. He walked over to where he found the book once before and looked around, though it still looked like a normal picture frame.
𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏, claws in,
he whispered. Ladybug watched 𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 fly out and land in his hand as he gave him a piece of cheese. Adrian looked to Ladybug, and for once he didn't joke or waver. He was the most serious she had ever seen.
𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 flew in here and unlocked it, letting me get the book out. I was gonna go see if I could find a way into the basement,
he said, waiting for 𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 to finish the cheese.
Yeah.
𝐿𝒾𝒸𝒛𝒏 groaned, finishing eating his cheese and then flying around the room. It took a few minutes of 𝐿𝒾𝒛𝒏 flying into different walls until Adrian groaned.
Ugh, what can?
𝐿𝒾𝒛𝒏 asked, unenthused.
𝐿𝒾𝒛🏐, fly downwards, it's in the basement. Go to the basement and follow away upwards.
Adrian sighed.
Huh. Oh, right.
𝐿𝒾𝒛🏐 laughed embarrassingly and did what Adrian suggested. A second later, they felt a shift below their feet start to rumble, and their line of vision start to darken as they were being lowered. Adrian felt a little out of balance not being in a superhero suit and shifted backward until he felt Ladybug and turned his head. His face lit up red, and she remembered what he had said about her superhero alter ego making him nervous. It's alright, kitty. She leaned down and placed a kiss on his cheek, smirking as she put a hand on his shoulder to keep him steady.
You're doing that on purpose now.
He let out a slight laugh.
𝐿𝒾𝒛🏐, claws out,
he whispered so he would be able to face anything that came their way on the other side, but when a piercing light from the basement shined in their eyes, they both went silent. White butterflies scattered around them, glistening in the sunlight through a huge window that overlooked Paris. Ladybug let go of 𝐿𝒾𝒛𝒏 and let him walk through the white fluttering silhouettes as he made his way down the path that met to an almost garden-like scenery, centered around something resembling a coffin. She could tell by his walking speed as he grew closer that what the police had told them was true about one of them. Ladybug zipped her way to him, catching him as he fell to his knees in front of the coffin. Ladybug held him around his arms as he stayed silent, almost embarrassed of his feelings. She looked up and saw that it was his mother, the same woman that she saw in his desktop background. Though she hadn't aged or decayed, it was like she was being kept alive, or was in some sort of comatose state. Adrian, she's still alive, she whispered. She felt his back shudder, and she could tell he was fighting to break down in front of her. Adrian, look at me, she screamed, trying to force him to look at her.
No!
Why not? She yelled.
Because if I do, I know I'll break down, and I won't be able to stop.
His voice was hoarse. It's alright to cry, Adrian. After everything you've gone through, she said, pulling his face to meet hers.
I don't want to turn into Cat Blanc,
he whispered, gripping her hand, looking up at her. She looked down at him, tears starting to fill her own eyes. That was why he was fighting his own emotions? He was trying to hold everything inside for her sake? He was trying so hard because of what she told him earlier. Oh, Adrien, I'm so sorry. I will always be there to help you. It's all right to cry. Ladybug started to cry. In that instant, she watched as his face turned from a bottled-up strained smile into a gasping for breath cry. He cried into her, wrapping his arms around her. She wrapped her arms around him, feeling his back quiver with every breath he sucked in, her eyes looking up at his mother that lay inside the glass, her body so lifeless and cold. She didn't know how to help him. The only thing she knew she could do was to be there for him and let him cry into her. She stroked his hair and lifted his head to look at him. He had tears streaming down his face. We can bring her back, Adrien. Ladybug smiled. We can figure this out. Those comforting words that she thought would soothe made his heart ache, and he wrapped his arms around her and pulled her closer, crying into her. Your father has it set up to where she's safe. Come stay with me, she whispered, picking him up in her arms.
No, it's all right. I want to stay home.
Cat said, letting go of Ladybug and standing up. Cat!
Go home to your family,
he said, giving her a forced smile, pulling away from her. You're my family too, remember? You've been for a long time, she said, grabbing his hand, watching his eyes look down at her hand. Thank you so much for watching. The next chapter will be out soon. If you haven't already, you can check out my other series such as The Butterfly That Brought Us Together, A Monstrous Night, Melting, Thunderstorms Season 1 if you haven't seen it, or if you would like to rewatch it. Or you can check out my Christmas special called A Merry Cat Christmas Special, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!